When we can appreciate great natural beauty and astonishing wildlife, we can better protect it. On land, we draw boundaries to create national parks, patrol borders, and guard what we cherish. But what about the wonders we cannot see? The life that lies beneath the waves. A hidden kingdom of fragile beauty, still largely unknown. Along the coast of East Africa, a new wave of conservation is rising. Here, passionate individuals are working to protect fragile marine ecosystems. They're giving sea turtles a fighting chance, introducing young Tanzanians to the underwater world on their doorstep, and building a model of ecotourism that helps both the people and ocean thrive. Tanzania in East Africa boasts some of the world's most iconic landmarks, like Mount Kilimanjaro, the Serengeti Plains, and the Ngorongoro Crater. These inland wonders are safeguarded by well-established national parks and dedicated conservation teams. We protect them because we can see what's at stake. But along Tanzania's vast coastline, the challenge is very different. Here, the ocean holds just as much beauty and biodiversity, yet most of it remains hidden beneath the surface. And what we cannot see, we often fail to protect. Fortunately, awareness is growing. People are beginning to understand the vital role oceans play. Not just for tourism, but for the survival of coastal communities who've relied on these waters for generations. The ocean provides food, jobs, and balance to the global climate. But commercial overfishing and unchecked exploitation are threatening this delicate lifeline at a staggering rate. That's why, along Tanzania's coast, a new movement is emerging. One that recognizes the ocean not just as a resource, but as a shared responsibility and a treasure worth fighting for. Tanzania's coastline stretches as long as the Gulf of California, rich in life, but highly vulnerable. Along this vast shoreline, a handful of privately funded conservation projects are working hard to turn the tide. On the northern coast, 3 islands are leading the way, embracing sustainable tourism to protect marine life and uplift local communities. Maziway, Chumbe, and Fanjove. At the top of the chain lies Maziwe Island, a sandbank surrounded by a fragile coral reef. Once a forested haven, it has long been a nesting ground for sea turtles, guided back by instincts imprinted at birth. But now, rising tides wash their eggs away before they can hatch. Just off the coast of Ushongo, a dedicated dive master, Kerstin Erler, is giving these turtles a second chance. With care and precision, she and her team relocate vulnerable nests to safer ground, protecting the next generation of sea turtles, one clutch at a time. Further south lies Chumbe Island, a sanctuary of rare mangroves and a forest that's taken root on an ancient coral rock. A living classroom where nature and education go hand in hand. This pioneering project began in the mid-1990s, led by conservationist Sibylle Riedmiller. Her vision? To transform the island into an educational hub for local school children to learn, explore, and grow. Alongside the fragile ecosystems they're now empowered to protect. Finally, there's the island of Fanjove. Biologist and entrepreneur Ryen has been instrumental in creating a sustainable paradise in the Indian Ocean. At the heart of his work is a simple but powerful belief that the ocean is not limitless and that protecting it begins with understanding just how fragile it really is. All three conservationists are united by a common mission: to protect these islands and the life they shelter before it's too late. But marine conservation in Tanzania faces three major threats. Firstly, global warming is heating the ocean, causing widespread coral bleaching and turning once vibrant reefs into pale skeletons. Secondly, overfishing and destructive practices like blast fishing are tearing apart coral structures and emptying the sea faster than it can replenish itself. And finally, the ocean is drowning in plastic. Non-degradable waste from across the world ends up here, choking coastlines, endangering wildlife, and disrupting ecosystems. These challenges are immense, but so is the dedication of the individuals working to protect these fragile ecosystems. Because to protect something, you have to care about it. And to care, you need to know it exists. Yet not everyone gets the chance to dive beneath the surface, to swim among coral gardens, or witness the dazzling biodiversity of the sea. That's why education is at the heart of marine conservation. Opening eyes, shifting perspectives, and inspiring action for the ocean's future. When Sibylle Riedmiller set out to start a coral reef conservation project of her own, she was struck by how little was known. Not just about the reefs themselves, but about how vital they are to marine life, local fisheries, and the livelihoods of coastal communities.
I came to Tanzania as a conservation and education planner for development aid. I was running projects for about 20 years. In the early 90s, I decided to stay behind after my contract ended because I just love the country, I love the tropical coral reef. I just fell in love and stayed behind. There was little awareness about what corals are and how important they are for the ecosystem. Corals are called, in the local language, Kiswahili, mawe la miamba, rocks and stones. You would find very few people here in this country who knew that coral is something living. Very few people knew because there was no marine tourism at this time. I got hooked on thinking, dreaming about that project of establishing a private marine park to be run by the funds from ecotourism and to be used mainly for education, environmental education for kids and for people, including local people community, fishermen of course, and also officials. So this idea started to develop.
Tourism is one of Tanzania's most important sources of income and employment. Its success and sustainability depend on protecting the natural wonders that draw people here in the first place. But conservation doesn't happen in isolation. It's part of a much bigger picture, shaped by global pressures and local realities. Ryen understands this well. He's seen firsthand the deeper challenges facing communities and the planet as they try to protect what remains.
The biggest problem is population. 50 years ago, Tanzania had 8 million people. Now it has 55 million people. Of course, you want to increase your level of lifestyle, so you need more. Before there was no trade, before there was only personal consumption. Now you're actually selling. As a paradox, most of the octopus that is caught here goes to Europe. So the consumption is not even here, it becomes a business. Plus, we have to consider technology like dynamites. Dynamite fishing has been one of our biggest challenges, which we managed to solve a year ago. So finally, we have no more dynamite fishing in this archipelago. But it has been a tremendous disaster for all the coastline.
Ending destructive practices like dynamite fishing is a major step forward. But lasting change depends on more than enforcement. It begins with dialogue, not blame. When communities understand the long-term impact on their reefs and livelihoods, they begin to lead the change themselves. They recognize the need to protect the ocean for their children, their future, and their way of life. And that's when real, lasting solutions take root.
Of course, here, development is at its initial stage, so Africans are saying, you in the Western world have already kind of destroyed all your resources, and now you tell us that we have to protect them. But this is the wrong way to look at conservation. Africa must understand that it is for its own sake, it is not for others. Biggest challenges, I believe, are creating this awareness, making people at all levels, from the village, community level, up to the higher level and politician. It's a matter of their own future, the future of the country, the future at the end of the earth, but particularly of their own people.
Sustainable fishing here can be described in the simplest of terms: one person, one boat. On this small scale, locals harvest just enough to feed their families and support their communities without harming the ocean. But these coastal waters are under pressure. Commercial interests, driven by profit alone, extract far more than the sea can naturally give. And the growing demand, combined with industrial methods, is pushing reefs and fish stocks to the brink. If the ocean is emptied, local communities will be left with no choice. Without food from the sea, families may be forced to migrate inland in search of alternatives.
Fish stocks are depleting everywhere in the world, even here, even though we're still in one of the most productive areas of Africa. But if we don't start acting now, in a few years' time, we will find ourselves with nothing left. That's what we're telling all the fishermen. They have to do it for themselves and for their children.
For generations, the ocean seemed endless, its bounty eternal. But for many communities, coming to terms with its decline has been a painful reality. Some changes unfold slowly until one day they're impossible to ignore. Just 10 kilometers off Ushongo Beach lies Maziway, a once forested island, now reduced to a sandbank at low tide. At night, female sea turtles return here, the same place they were born, to lay their eggs. When this female hatched decades ago, Maziway was covered in trees. But today, if nature is left to take its course, her nest will be lost to the sea. Normally, a turtle moves above the high tide line to dig her nest. But on Maziway, there is no such line. In just over an hour, she lays a clutch of up to 200 eggs, carefully covers them with sand, and slips silently back into the ocean. But by the next high tide, the sandbank will be gone, swallowed by the sea. Each tide claims another clutch, washed away before the eggs ever stand a chance. Thankfully, not all hope is lost. When a nesting turtle is spotted by chance or by a caring local, there's a number to call. Waiting on the mainland are Kerstin Erler and Rajabu Sif, leaders of the Friends of Maziway. They've developed a simple but life-saving response. Relocate the eggs before the tide does. Change begins with people, and when they fight to protect even a small piece of the planet, together they create a powerful ripple effect. Getting to Maziway isn't easy. It takes a drive to the coast and an hour's boat ride to reach the sandbank. But for the Friends of Maziway, the journey is always worth it. Founded in 2005, the group originally set out to monitor the health of the coral reef. The Turtle Relocation Project began 3 years later and has become one of their most impactful efforts. Turtle tracks provide valuable data, and time is of the essence. Before the tide returns, every nest must be found, logged, and carefully relocated. The team's presence also serves another purpose. The sandbank's waters are tempting to illegal fishers, but simply being there is often enough to deter unwanted activity. Locating a nest takes both patience and skill. Rajabu gently probes the beach, feeling for the sand to give way as the stick pierces a nest. Turtles usually lay at night, and the relocation begins the moment they return to the sea. The nest is uncovered, and each egg is lifted with extreme care. Another boat ride brings them to the mainland, where the eggs are reburied in a safer, more stable location. But this process isn't just about survival, it's about science. The pivotal temperature of the sand will determine the sex of the hatchlings. Between 28 and 29 degrees Celsius, both males and females are formed. Cooler sands yield males, warmer sands, females. Each nest is marked with sticks and recorded, so the hatchlings can be monitored. And when they emerge, they'll imprint on this beach, the one they'll return to decades from now, to begin the cycle all over again, if they survive. Once the turtle hatchlings reach the ocean, their survival is out of anyone's hands. But what we can control is the health of the ocean they enter. Using a plumb line and tape measure, Kerstin monitors select areas of coral and the fish that call them home. Some species act as indicators. signposts that reveal whether the reef is thriving or under stress. Further offshore, in deeper waters, she places small devices known as temperature loggers. Silent sentinels that track rising sea temperatures, the main driver of coral bleaching. When the data changes, it's an early warning. The reef is in trouble. Kerstin isn't a marine biologist. She's a dive master. But that hasn't stopped her from becoming a leader in conservation. Because protecting nature doesn't require a degree, only a commitment to care. Anyone can be a conservationist. And when young people are given the knowledge, tools, and space to act, their passion shines through. They hold something truly powerful, a voice within their communities, and the determination to protect what matters most. In Tanzania, many children grow up seeing the sea only as a source of fish. But that is starting to change. The next generation needs mentors, teachers, and healthy oceans. Places where they can witness the wonders of the underwater world and imagine a future where it thrives.
Oh, here we are. Okay, off we go.
Back in the early 1990s, the idea of marine conservation was still new in Tanzania. But Sibylle had a vision: to protect the reef near Chumbe Island and turn it into a force for good.
At that time, both in Zanzibar and mainland Tanzania, marine conservation was a very new area. So there was no legislation at all for marine parks and marine conservation. So I had to start talking about what a marine park is and that there's a market in the tourism industry for marine ecology, for coral reefs, to earn income, to fund the management and other programs. This was a very new concept for the government, but there was no marine park conservation legislation at all. So, well, it took 4 years and 7 ministries to negotiate, to do something which had never been done before, because this is a private marine park. It's the first private marine park in the world based on a marine conservation agreement. This is a concept which now is quite common and used in the world, but at the time nobody had ever done it.
At Fanjove Island, Malcolm puts his efforts into a very similar project.
I think Fanjove is an example where tourism can become a catalyst for conservation. We started over 10 years ago. We have renting the islands of Fanjove from the village of Songo Songo. And in exchange, we have an agreement whereby there is no fishing areas.
Here on Songo Songo, the main island in the archipelago, fishing is more than a way of life. It is life. Local traditions continue, including the age-old method of catching octopus. But not everything in these waters is safe to eat. The pufferfish hides a powerful defense. Its internal organs contain a toxin more potent than cyanide. Best to give it a wide berth. With practice, fishers can feel the pressure on the stick when an octopus is hidden beneath the sand. The locals have been taught to fish with care, Too small, and the octopus goes back, though not without a final inky protest. It's a sustainable approach, passed down and protected by knowledge. But with growing populations, sustainability isn't just a good idea. It's essential. To help preserve fish stocks, local regulatory teams now monitor the catch, weighing and recording data to ensure the ocean isn't being over-harvested. One species that still seems to be thriving is the sardine, especially during their seasonal migration. But even they are never far from hungry eyes. Marine life doesn't stay in one place. You cannot put a fence around the sea, which is why protecting it takes more than just boundaries. It takes cooperation, shared knowledge, and people working together across coastlines and communities. That begins with education and grows through partnership. Coalitions often begin in the simplest of ways. On Chumbe Island, Sibylle and Kerstin meet with their teams to learn from each other, share ideas, and strengthen the causes they both champion. As Sibylle's project moves forward, she outlined a bold new plan. A protected area dedicated not just to conservation, but to learning.
I was basically suggesting a marine park to be used for education, which means an area which could be totally closed for fishing. It should be a no-take area. I wanted to see first, is the quality of the reef still good enough to be preserved, you know, because some reefs are just not good enough anymore. And also, is this reef heavily fished? Are many people depending on the reef, so that would make it very difficult to close it for marine conservation. It should also be shallow enough to be used for education. Kids to be taken there for snorkeling. Kids could be taught there. It should be also good enough for tourists. These were mainly the criteria I had in my mind when going around Zanzibar. It took me about 2 months until I came here. So I proposed to the government, we need to protect this reef, which means the island is then the place for the tourism project. And it's just fantastic, you know. We have an incredibly rich, undisturbed, semi-dry forest growing on coral rock. You hardly find any soil cover here.
What you do find in great abundance here are some truly extraordinary creatures. Ones with a taste for coconuts. Spilled coconut water lures expert, if slightly clumsy, raiders into nearby kitchens. And they'll move heaven, earth, and a few pots and pans to get what they want. These are coconut crabs, the largest land-living invertebrates on Earth. In fact, they're believed to be the largest any arthropod could grow while still supporting its own weight. Their incredible bodies have 10 legs. Six for walking, 2 for delicate tasks like feeding, and 2 ending in enormous pincers for heavy lifting and intimidating rivals. Once thought to range no farther west than Zanzibar, coconut crabs have now been spotted on Chumbe Island. They feed mostly on nuts, fruits, and seeds, but they're also opportunistic scavengers and hunters. They breathe with lungs, not gills, and will drown if left underwater for more than an hour. Their sharp sense of smell leads them straight to food. And unfortunately, that includes human kitchen scraps. If they've adapted so well to our trash, it's no surprise they feel right at home on the world's coastlines. Seashores around the world are plagued by plastic. Here, along the Tanzanian coast, the tides rise and fall, and with them comes a very human problem, again and again. Awareness of ocean polluting is growing. People are starting to grasp the scale of the damage. Coral reefs turning pale, fish mistaking plastic for food, and the floating islands of waste drifting across our seas. But this understanding must go deeper, because every year, at least 8 million tons of plastic end up in the world's oceans, and that's a conservative estimate. Even with global awareness on the rise, the message still has to reach the ground. To tourists, to local communities, to anyone who walks along a beach and leaves something behind. Here, Kerstin and Rajabu see the problem firsthand. On average, they collect 4 plastic bottles per square meter of beach. And with nearly 1,000 kilometers of coastline, the scale becomes staggering. Most Tanzanians don't realize the extent of the issue. Not yet. To understand where it all comes from, the team sorts the bottles by origin, and then, bottle by bottle, they clear the beach again, until the next wave of plastic arrives. While the plastic is being cleared, another team is hard at work. A group of dedicated Tanzanians, working with the Friends of Maziway, patrol the nearby no-fishing zones. The biggest threat here is commercial overfishing, especially explosive methods that destroy reefs. But even small-scale fishing is restricted within a set distance of Maziwe Island, to give the reef and its wildlife a chance to recover. When fishers are spotted in restricted areas, the team steps in. With respect, they calmly redirect boats to legal waters, reinforcing boundaries that protect the ocean for everyone. Maintaining a fishing-free zone takes patience and persistence. Even when laws exist, not everyone knows the rules. And often, local communities are the last to hear about new regulations that affect their lives. That's why enforcement here is about building trust, raising awareness, and making conservation a shared goal. As the global population continues to grow, so do the pressures on our planet. But so does the potential for change. Because it only takes one person to protect one reef, one beach, one piece of the natural world. And when enough people care, when they're informed, inspired, and determined, their small actions become something much bigger. There's a common belief that one person can't make a difference. But the truth is, we all make an impact every single day. The more we understand, the more we can do. And when multiplied by billions, even the smallest actions can change the world.
And I think the very important other aspect is working with the communities, make people understand. It's not something that foreigners have to do. Foreigner may be the catalyst, may be the instrument to start a process, but then the process must be owned by Tanzanians.
No conservation project can succeed without local knowledge, support, and ingenuity. And thanks to ongoing education efforts, Tanzanians are increasingly stepping up to protect their own natural heritage. For local school children, it starts with a snorkel. They're given basic training, then taken out on an unforgettable day trip to the reef. It's fun, but there's a purpose behind the play: to spark wonder, to inspire a respect for the waters that cover 3/4 of our planet, and to plant the seed of something deeper, the drive to protect it. Some take to the water as if born to it. Others are more hesitant, testing the water in their own time. But for many, something changes. They begin to see coral as more than just rocks underwater. They recognize them as miniature living cities, vital to the health of the ocean. The Friends of Maziway's Day Out seems to have left its mark. And even if it's just a memory for now, it might be the start of something greater. Because if the next generation grows up loving the ocean and understands why it matters, they may just be the ones to save it.
From the very beginning, Chumbe was a project made for local school kids, so they come over for free. They have a full day trip. They do snorkeling like any tourist. They go forest trail. They get whole class in the classroom.
So Chumbe is protecting the whole island, terrestrial environment.
Bus transfer, everything. So something tourists pay for $90, they get for free. That's what you have to do, you know, that's what we offer. It's something which any park can actually do. Also government parks can do that. There's always enough income to provide free transport, free entry for local people. It's very important politically. It is very important.
For eco-tourists lucky enough to witness it, few experiences in nature are as enchanting as watching baby sea turtles make their first dash to the ocean. The dates are confirmed in advance, and the nest is temporarily uncovered and inspected. the team checks that the hatchlings are ready for their moment in the spotlight. Eager visitors gather to watch the tiny turtles scramble toward the waves. A frantic, heartwarming race for survival. Kerstin explains that had these eggs remained on Maziwe Island, they would have rotted in seawater before ever hatching. That's why they were carefully relocated to the mainland. The success of this program speaks for itself. Over 400 turtle nests have been relocated, releasing more than 60,000 hatchlings. Of those, just 60 are expected to survive to adulthood. It's a sobering statistic, 1 in 1,000, but it mirrors the odds faced by turtles in the wild. And in a world where sea turtles are endangered, every single survivor counts. While adult turtles face dangers from unstable nesting sites, they also contend with poaching for meat and for their eggs. The hatchlings are just beneath the surface. On their own, they would emerge after sunset. But today, help is already here. It's hard not to be moved by the sight of a tiny turtle, no bigger than a hand, racing toward the waves with purpose and urgency. It's believed this dash helps the hatchling imprint on the beach. A kind of natural GPS, guiding her back decades later to lay eggs of her own.
Where are you going?
Under natural conditions, many won't survive. Crabs and seabirds on the beach and fish in the shallows, each presents a threat. But the hope is that at least one release today will return, 30 years from now, to continue the cycle. The Friends of Maziway are making a small but powerful difference. A difference built on care, knowledge, and local action. And when we change our assumptions about conservation and sustainability, we discover that everyone, no matter where they are, has a role to play in healing the planet.
You know, it's really a race against time. We are losing biodiversity globally and also locally. Small steps, you win sometime, somewhere. You would like to have a much bigger impact on a bigger scale, but it's hard, so we have to work on it, that's all you can say.
Around the world, people are stepping up. They're working tirelessly to protect their own corner of the planet. And while each project may seem small on its own, together, they're creating something extraordinary.
Times are right. You know, this is the right moment for people to understand, for action to be taken. And marine conservation is kind of been a little bit left aside and forgotten. But there are good examples as Fanjove, but also other places in Tanzania, other islands, other areas on mainland where success stories are happening.
It's these stories of reef restorers, turtle rescuers, and young conservationists that offer real hope. If we empower young people, give them the tools and the trust to act, they will lead the way. Because when children connect with nature, and when they're given the chance to protect it, they already begin to change the world. This planet faces enormous challenges: overpopulation, global warming, pollution. There's no single answer, but there are billions of us. And when we each change just one thing, one habit, one mindset, one beach, we begin a cascade of change that can preserve this planet, one small island at a time.